Make sure your mics are on. Jennifer?
I think we're hot.
It's hot.
Take it away.
Thank you very much, Ray. Let's give a big round of applause for Ray Rocha. And someone who's meant so much for the great state of Nevada, Patty Cafferata. Patty? All right. And by the way, we're going to now interview someone you all know, and that's none other than Congressman Mark Amodei. Let's hear it for Mark. Okay, Mark, I'm going to lead it off. I'm going to throw the softball, and then you can believe Jennifer will start throwing the hard balls, okay?
Fair enough. Thanks for the warning.
That's right. And I ordered pork tonight, so you could take that back to Congress, okay, for the next bills that come around. Mark, as Congressman, I would like to know your best or favorite accomplishment since you've been in Congress.
Well, the Nevada Direct one was having to fight for about 30 solid days to get gaming accepted as an acceptable purpose for the PPP loans when COVID hit.
Right.
The Department of Treasury and the Small Business Administration basically had said, even though it was nowhere in the law and it was to help small employers, it was like, no, we can't do. The banks all started coming back and saying, we can't loan to gamers. And it's like, what am I missing? It's not in the law. And President Trump it was his administration, so working with Mark Meadows, Larry Kudlow, Mick Mulvaney, all those folks, and it was not an easy thing to do to get Mnuchin's people to do that. When they finally did, we figure it probably saved statewide about 50,000 jobs because your people locally here, maybe not the Farahis and the Paganettis and those folks, but the folks up there at the Bonanza Casino, folks in Carson, folks in Minden, all that stuff were hanging by a thread there.
Right.
And so if it was just like, hey, hard work, had to keep going, and we ended up coming through. So it was gratifying to go as the only Republican in the delegation. If you can't get that out of that administration, then people would very rightly ask, what good are you doing us?
Right.
And so it was do or die.
Wow. Well, good job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for doing that for us. Jennifer?
Yeah, I don't think we knew much about that, so thanks for sharing. My question starts out with similar. Thanks for starting it out wrong, mister. That was my fun part. Second question from me was, everyone's predicting a red wave. Everyone's saying it's going to be great. You are the senior congressperson, so as the man for us in Congress, my question to you is, you will be heading up some committees, hopefully, this next time when you go in. What committees will you be trying to get on, and what do you think they would do to benefit, what being on those committees would you do to benefit Nevada directly?
Right. I'm a member of the Appropriations Committee. There are 12 subcommittees. The people who chair those 12 subcommittees are called cardinals. I would prefer that they be called sage hen or magpies or something. But anyhow, one of the 12 cardinals. Right now, we're one slot away from being one of those 12 cardinals if you're in the majority. And so they say, well, which one am I? You know, there's armed forces, there's interior, there's ledge ops, there's commerce, all those sorts of things. And so the good news about the way that appropriations is run is all of the 12 committees' bills come through the committee as a whole. So you get to put your finger on everything, whether it's commerce, justice, science, defense, whatever it is. But I think if you're really thinking about Nevada, then and you're given your pick, it's like you got to chair the Interior Appropriations. That's BLM, that's Forest Service, that's Bureau of Rec. All those folks come through that committee initially for their budgets. So if you have an issue, especially with oversight, then, you know, when you say, hey, I need you to come in and explain to me what you're doing, BIA on an environmental assessment, for instance, in Douglas County, out in the Johnson Lane area, or BLM, what are you doing with respect to Burning Man, or all those sorts of things, they come talk to you about that. So you have an opportunity to really put your fingerprint on what those agencies are doing because you hear their budgets.
Wow, great. Hey, Mark, you know, it was 15 to 17 years ago that there were two assemblymen that I interviewed, and that was you and Assemblyman Dean Heller, okay? And that's how long I've been doing this, but I've got to ask you a personal question when it comes to the attitude in Congress right now. I'm hearing from the people who listen and watch our shows, I'm hearing that there's never been more hatred across the aisle than there is today. And are you going to be able to continue to reach across the aisle and get support?
Well, you know, I've tried to, in the time I've been there, it's like there are people that I don't vote with hardly ever, but if there's an opportunity to work together on some. John Garamendi from California, Jimmy Panetta from California.
Right.
Jim Costa from California. We don't vote together much, but if it's some, Garamendi right now is helping us with the Fallon bill to expand the test and training range and things like that. So it's like, I try to, and some people have criticized me. It's like, well, you didn't say anything. It's like, listen, if there's something to be gained by calling somebody a dirty, rotten SOB, fine. But at the end of calling them that, if you haven't gained anything, it's like, in this job, I think people expect you to produce results.
Right.
And they don't measure results unless I'm missing something in how many people you pissed off, even though you disagree with them. I hope that doesn't get us inked from whatever it is.
No.
That wasn't one of the words I was told I couldn't say. Anyhow, so but I'll tell you this, make no mistake about it, Eddie. The way things were run when John Boehner and even Paul Ryan, who I wasn't a huge fan of, we at least respected some semblance of the rules.
Right.
These, I'll tell you right now, they marked up gun control laws in House Judiciary today, and you know what input they took from the Republicans before they brought the bills before the committee? Yeah, whoever said zero wins the prize. And so, which is how they've done everything in this Congress.
Right.
And so it's like, you know, if they go back in the minority, they'll say it's not bipartisan, it's not whatever. Well, during this last 3 years of Nancy Pelosi's speakership, you have seen a lot of examples set that were not good in terms of how they treated the minority. I mean, change the rules and everything else. So we'll see. But I also think that there's a heck of a lot of frustration and anger out there to where if Republicans are given control of the House, it's like you've got to start producing right away.
Right.
And what happens in the Senate is the Senate's issue. But I don't think, well, you know, we need the White House. It's like, no, you're being sent back there this time as a Republican to basically fight the last 2 years of this presidency.
Wow. You know, Mark, do you mind? I'll go
ahead.
next.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to go with the next question because you really kind of led into it right now. And that is, you know, every day of my life, either on the air or off, I'm hoping and praying that the Republican Party will reach across the aisle to each other. Okay? Yeah. I've never seen a Republican Party more fragmented in my entire life than it is today.
Too much college, not enough kindergarten.
Vote for Eddie. Yeah, no, that's a great statement. I mean, some days, and listen, the neat thing about Republicans is everybody is an independent person, and they have their thoughts, and they have their goals, and they have their beliefs, and they're strong. Although I'll just relate a story from a Lincoln Day dinner, doesn't matter where it was, where a guy came up and he was madder than heck at me, and he's going, how come this, and are you going to vote for McCarthy for Speaker? And I says, tell me who's going to run against him. And then I'll tell you. If somebody runs against him, I'll take a look at that.
Right.
You know, did you vote for Boehner? Tell me who was running against Boehner that I should have voted for. And so he ended up going, well, how come you're not more like AOC and you're on the news and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know, with all due respect, if you want somebody to emulate AOC on the other side of the aisle, I said, I ain't your guy.
Right.
I prefer to be judged by what I do instead of what I accomplish, and you need the other side to accomplish something, rather than how much of the national media, which, by the way, even though that wasn't your question, anybody who trusts the national media after what we've been through and what we're finding out on everything from A to Z, God bless you, but I ain't with you.
Right. Nobody should, as a matter of fact, when early voting started, I told everybody, do not pay attention to a single poll that you read in the newspaper or see on the news, because they're all lying to you.
Absolutely. You know, I'll just remind you of a factual thing that in the old days when everybody had a phone hanging on the wall in the kitchen, and they knew what address they were getting, they knew who lived there, you could do a sample that said right number of women, right number of men, right number of age groups. You could put a truly represent. Those days are gone with cell phones. And if you think back, it's like the Hillary Clinton folks thought they were going to win in 2016.
Right.
And you've seen other ones where it's like, and they call them all in. You know, it's like, well, how come you missed by? In the old days, when a pollster missed, it was by 2 points. Now you're lucky if they got it right on who's going to win. So,
Right, exactly. 2 points was a landslide.
yeah,
Jennifer.
yeah, you really missed it.
I'm going to take you back to working together across the aisles and across the state lines. Our community has been rocked by smoke inhalation for years.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with fires over and over and over again from bad decision making on the other side of the mountain. We have issues down in Douglas with lawsuits all across our state. We have people asking that our congressmen file lawsuits, that we do other things. I want to ask you, what, in a perfect world, what would you have done different? What could you do in the future so that when, because it's not an if, when the next fire starts,
Right.
is there something we can do? Should we stand behind you? And what can you do to avoid any national or state lawsuits in the future?
Well, first and foremost, my father was a professional wildland firefighter. He worked for the Division of Forestry for Nevada, retired, all that stuff. And in those days, it was as soon as the fire starts, put it out. And we did that from the 20s until probably 20 years ago.
Right.
And then the facts people, you know, fire was always part of the regimen there to control fuels. And so when you say, what can we do? One of the things I was criticized for, if you can believe that I've been criticized, is voting for the omnibus. It's like, my God, that omnibus and blah, blah, blah. Well, let me tell you what one of the reasons why I voted for it was. There was money in there for the Forest Service, who owns most of the ground west of us, which is where the wind blows from, to do fuels reduction and initial attack. More money than before. Well, why do you care about that? Because I'm tired of living in Mars for the summers that we've had, most of them.
Right.
So you've got that to start with. But the overall answer is this. Until those land managers embrace the concept of fuels management, which is not an evil thing. Nature used to do that before we got here with fire in a low level sense, low intensity sense. And it's like, you have to start managing those fuels, and especially around where it's like you see those trees next to each other. Once they get started, it's in a drought and the wind's blowing Mach 6. It isn't going to stop until one of those things changes. And so I was up at TRPA earlier today meeting with them over the whole Tahoe Act and going, what are you doing on fuels? Where are you doing it? By the way, are you managing fuels around those pump stations and around those utility right-of-ways? Because if those start burning down, you've compounded the problem as well as and so it's like comprehensive. We need to change the way we think. And I'll tell you this, I think it's changing, but you can never say mission accomplished because it's doing yard work across, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of acres.
Right. You think California blew it when the fires first took off, and I believe in my heart they didn't manage the BLM properly.
Well, and most of the stuff over there is Forest Service or CAL FIRE. It used to be called the California Division of Forestry. We were intimately involved, especially during Caldor and the Tamarack fire south of Gardnerville, because I was getting calls from our fire chiefs, Todd Carlini, East Fork Fire, going, they're not talking to us. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, well, it isn't in Nevada yet. Why do we need to talk to them? It's like the whole idea is for the damn thing not to get in Nevada.
Right.
And so we got involved. I went up and met with those teams, went to their briefings and said, I want to talk about what you're doing for communications because that has to be fixed. Wow. And so I think their biggest challenge, Eddie, to be directly responsive is they need to make sure they do a better job of communicating. And it's not like, well, until it gets to your state, we won't worry about it. It's like, no, you need to worry about it a long time before.
Amen.
Because all the smoke's in our state.
Amen. You know, air quality just sucked. Jennifer?
So on to the next natural issue.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
are an expert in water. You have been for many years. We call on you often to answer questions about it. There is a lot of conversations about water across our state, and
30 seconds.
you have 30 seconds to answer this? Yes. Okay, so if you have one answer that would be easy, what
Okay.
would that be regarding water in our state
First,
right now?
last, and middle, never, ever, ever let the feds control water in this state. We have a state engineer. Those decisions, even if you don't like them, are made in this state. And so any attempt by Forest Service, BLM to own water rights or control under any other federal agency Nevada's water is absolute. I mean, it's just intuitive. You don't want somebody 2,500 miles away
Right.
with 535 people, only one of which is from your part of the neighborhood, making decisions for your water.
Amen. Hey, can we give it up for Congressman Mark
Congressman
Amodei?
Mark
Thank you,
Amodei.
Mark.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Hero.
We're staying up now?
We're going down. We're going down. Okay? I think.
Yes.
Gary, you want to get up there? PK, where are you? Really want to thank Congressman Amodei. He did a great job. I'm sure he'll stay for a few minutes to answer any questions. But next is a debate between Assembly 40 candidates, Gary Schmidt and PK O'Neill. And I have 30 minutes, and there's Aaron's going to explain the rules.
I am. Do you? Okay. So the rules are you don't mention Fight Club. Oh, wait. Okay, so each candidate's going to get 90 seconds. So that's about 10 sentences. 90-second introduction statement. And then during the question and answer session, you're going to have 60 seconds to answer each question. And then once all candidates have answered said question, they will have an optional 30-second rebuttal. So raise your hand to request a rebuttal. You tracking? And then finally, at the very end, you'll get a 90-second closing statement.
Beautiful. Any
All right.
questions on the, yes,
Could we get some fresh water up here?
fresh water?
Yeah. I'm not
Sure.
sure where these have been.
Yeah, okay. I'll start the debate off by saying, in this corner, wearing no trunks, no, okay. You know what, let's start right now with the little introduction, one at a time, and we'll start with you, PK.
Thank you. Thank you all who are here tonight and to Red Moves Nevada for sponsoring this event. They can hear me, can't they?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You can?
Eat it.
Oh, eat it.
Eat the mic.
Hello.
There you go.
Thank you to all who are here tonight, and thank you to Red Moves Nevada, Ray, and the rest for sponsoring this event tonight. I welcome this opportunity to discuss the many issues facing our state with my Republican primary opponent. I'm PK O'Neill, your Assemblyman for District 40, and I'm seeking re-election to continue representing you. When I'm out and about, folks ask me why I'm running for re-election. The short answer is shaped by my 40 years career in law enforcement. Many people see a problem and just complain about it. I, however, am motivated to work towards solutions to the challenges we're facing. I've lived in Carson City area for over 42 years, raised my children, participated with them in their various numerous youth events. I am and have been deeply involved in our community, bringing together a divergent group of people, such as serving on the Carson Tahoe Hospital Board of Directors, former chairman of the Advisory Board for Salvation Army of Carson City, served as a commissioner on the State Ethics Commission. I believe that's why I am endorsed by so many of our community leaders and businesses. I'm a proven conservative leader Nevada needs in the legislature. I've passed meaningful legislation and battled to defeat others. I believe in our Constitution and will continue to fight for policies which promote Nevada as the place to conduct business, raise a family, and enjoy the beauty of our great state. I look forward to the honor of continuing to represent the Capital District in the Assembly and work to reestablish Nevada's strong economy. Thank you.
You're up, Mr. Schmidt.
Mr. Schmidt?
I'm Gary Schmidt, and I'd like to ask a question here. How many people out here know who I am? That's quite a few. I usually follow that up with how many people out here are too embarrassed to admit you know who I am. But I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say how many people out here know who Philip is? How many people out there know that he voted for the largest tax increase in the history of Nevada after campaigning for a year promising not to? And after promising the Carson City Central Committee the night before the vote that he was not going to vote for it. But then after a visit to the governor's office, he went back out on the floor and voted for it. I'm running for District 40 because I do not want to be represented by a non-Republican. As someone that's so far away from Republican values that I do not want him to represent me in my district, and I don't believe most of you want him to represent you. On the state assembly, you represent the entire state. You're elected by district, but it's important to have a person in there that's a fighter that has true Republican values in his heart. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Gary.
This is 30 seconds, by the way.
Gentlemen, all of us in the room are looking at you two as a political candidate. I look at you as a job applicant. And I'm sure most of the people viewing would like to review you as a job applicant as well. Would you please list for us your resume, since we don't have it in front of us, of why you feel you're qualified to be the next state senator? Excuse me, Assembly. Sorry, I'm looking at you. My apologies. As the Assembly candidate, please share your resume and your qualifications with us that you feel are most important to this job. We'll start with you, Mr. Schmidt. Since you ended last time, we'll get started with you.
Okay. The most important part of the job, as far as I'm concerned, is to be honest and forthright and true to your constituents. To say what you mean and mean what you say. What I bring to the table is 40 years fighting abusive, intrusive, arrogant, oppressive government at all levels. That's from the school board to the county commissions, to the city councils, to the state legislature, and on the federal level. I've spent 40 years fighting the government for their abuses, and the government is the problem. The people are not the problem. The unelected bureaucrats and elected bureaucrats are the problem, and that's what has to be addressed.
All right.
PK?
Thank you. I started out working, I've been involved in the community. Even when I was in college, I worked for a funeral home and took care of people, the families in their most vulnerable times. I progressed, I went into law enforcement for 40 years. I have served my community. I have gone out on Christmases, graduations from my children's schools to go serve the communities on violent crimes. Additionally, even after I retired, and even while I was there, I served on youth programs because I'm active in the community. I believe in the community year-round. Being a legislator is secondary. I have always been dedicated to where I live and to the community to make this a better place. I serve on the board of the hospital and 6 subsequent boards. I've served in the Salvation Army. I support our Friends in Service Helping. I'm active in our church. I don't just show up during election time. I just don't show up during the legislative session. I show up year-round to help you make this a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, PK.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, next question is going to be to both of you, and I'll start with you, PK. We're taking turns on who starts, okay? You've been in public office, and Gary, you have obviously been involved in politics for a long, long time. I'm going to start with you, PK. Is there anything in your career or your efforts that you regret over the years?
Boy, that's a long list, it can be.
That's all right.
I'll be one of those different type of people in politics. I'll admit my mistakes. My opponent is right. In 15, I did vote for the margins tax, and I regret it. It did not develop the way it is. It was rated by the Democrats. It did not do what it was supposed to do, what we were told it would do. The governor didn't deliver on the program for us. So yeah, I do regret that, but I've learned to live by my errors. Probably we learn more from our mistakes than we learn from our successes. So that's probably the biggest one. I've also learned don't always trust people, particularly on the other side of the aisle when they said they will do something with you or for you. It just doesn't always happen. We made agreements on various bills to get passed, and as soon as they got power, you look across it, they rescinded all of those bills. In 17 and in 19, we have to get back to the Republican Party and get back in power. Thank you.
Thank you, PK. Gary, you're up.
Yeah. When I got out of high school in California, I went to work at Lockheed. And within about a month, I learned don't always trust people. I'm not sure why Philip took so long to figure that out. But I learned that a half a century ago. And I can tell you that I will be a skeptic at all times. And if the governor invites me into his office to talk about the largest tax increase in the history of Nevada, I'm going to decline the offer. If he wants to talk to me about it, he can come to my office. And when he leaves my office, I'm going to be absent a boot on my right foot because that's going to be planted squarely in his derriere on his way out the door.
Thank you, Gary. Jennifer?
Gentlemen, there is a lot of conversations around mining tax issues and the deficit that's in our budget at the moment. I'd like your opinion on the current issues around the mining tax deficit. There's a lot of schools complaining about their budgets being cut, additional issues. Do you have a solution in your mind that you're going to take forward with you into the session? We'll start with you, PK, I believe, correct?
Be Gary. Yeah.
Oh, Gary, sorry.
You're a little soft-spoken. Can you repeat that a little louder, please?
Yes. There's a mining tax issue, deficit with the mining tax at the
Yes.
moment. There's a lot of schools across this state that have been in the news talking about they're having to cut their budgets because mining taxes is a large deficit right now from the mining tax. I'd like to know what your answers are before you get to the legislature. What are your solutions that you have in mind to put a bill in or some other way that you can provide some form of solution to the deficit of the money that's missing from the mining taxes?
Well, I don't think we have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And one of the big issues is schools. Everybody talks about education. And the problem with education is it's top-loaded. There's too much money spent on administration and not enough money spent actually educating our students on the basic fundamentals. And so I don't think we need to address a shortfall. I think that we need to address the spending problem. And reduce spending across the board in all areas. And the way to do it in education is to bring competition, more competition into education, in vouchers, school choice, et cetera, and to put a lid on the teachers' union and their buying politicians, and that then grant them their contracts directly or indirectly.
Forgive me, because the question was more about the deficit that the state is, in fact, missing from mining taxes.
I
What is the
understand
plan that you will be
but
going into the
way to
legislature
adjust
to
for the
replace that money?
deficit is to decrease spending.
Okay. PK?
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to disagree with you. We're right now projected to have close to $500 million surplus in this year's budget. The mining tax that was passed basically along strict party lines in the last session was actually a horrible event for the mining. They're going to find out how bad it is. The per pupil funding program that was also passed has not developed the way it was. They can't explain it even now how it's going to help the schools out except in Clark County. So the rest of the counties, I was talking with the the Carson City School Board the other day, they still don't understand how that budget, that funding program is going to work. They've lost $3 million. Washoe County has lost money. What we have to do is go back to the budget, get rid of things like the Governor's Office of New Nevadans, which is just assisting illegal aliens, take that money, if it's really necessary, over to education and put it there. But money is not the solution to education. It is much more deep in that and getting parents. So thank you.
If we had the opportunity to do away with the Department of Education, let's see a show of hands. Would you want to do that? All right, thank you very much. All right, let's go.
That was an easy question.
That's an easy question. Now let's go to Nevada. What's our number one problem in the state of Nevada right now that you're going to have on the floor when you get back in the assembly?
I hope it doesn't come to fruition, but I'm afraid it'll be Democrats. We have got to get a Republican governor. We've got to take the Republican Senate, and hopefully we can increase our numbers in the Republican Assembly. If we can do that, then we can reverse some of these bills, such as AB 321, the world-renowned election bill that legalized ballot harvesting. One day it's a felony, the next day it's legal. That's the biggest fear that I have coming this next legislature. Right now, we've got to get people out to know that their vote counts in spite of what has been passed by the Democrats in the legislature. We have got to make sure that you feel your vote counts. There's voters' integrity and security in your election. With that, we'll get back to Republicans and bring back sanity. Then we can start addressing the true issues that are damaging our great state.
Thank you, PK. Gary?
Yeah, basically, it's election integrity, but on the broader sense, it's the lack of election integrity. But on the broader sense, it's the people have lost their confidence in the government, and so they don't participate. We need to get more people involved, people out there that don't even register to vote, that just live their lives, that say you can't fight City Hall. They've just given up on regulating and controlling runaway government. And we have to rebuild, what I intend to do is rebuild their confidence in the government and bring them back into the system. Because if we can bring those disenfranchised, citizens back in, we'll vote out the Democrats, and then we'll have common sense government at that point in time.
Wow.
And
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Gentlemen, with the addition of Story County and more of the Virginia Range in your district, I want to address a very specific issue with the wild horse areas. I would like your opinion on the wild horses that belong to Nevada, so the Nevada-owned wild horses in the Virginia Range. I'd like your opinion on the fertility control, the population of the horses, and your ideas of what you'd like to see different with the range management.
Who's first?
I believe that
Starts with Gary.
starts with Gary again.
being a horse owner, or at least my wife is, and let me just say that the way the federal government handles wild or feral horses in Nevada is obscene. It's just not natural. They shouldn't be penned up. They shouldn't be shipped to slaughterhouses. In a lot of ways, they should not be adopted back out to people that can't handle them, and then they just become feral horses again. What we need to do is let nature take its courses, the horses as well as citizens, people, have a right for natural birth, natural life, and natural death. And that's the way, if you leave it alone and get government out. Ronald Reagan said that far too often the government can't solve the problem, far too often the government is the problem. And that goes for the wild horses. You let the herds be on their own, and they'll naturally, thin out.
PK?
Thank you. Actually, you're right. Just dealing with the state side of our horses, they're along the Virginia range. When I was out knocking on doors, I made acquaintance of a gentleman, Bob Holloman, lives down in Lockwood. And I got talking to him about horses and the Nevada's horses, as he calls them, versus the federal horses. He says, anytime you have a problem, PK, anytime a constituent calls you up, you give me a call and I'll go address it for you. He's in with a program to take care of the state side of our wild horses. And I've already done it. It works. He enjoys it. He will go after the horses and take care of them, because I've learned there are people, there's no in between. They either hate them or they love them. And it changes location to location, actually within the neighborhood, depending on how much grass you have or wildlife you have. So Bob is my answer to that. I want to give him full support in the program that he has to assist and have our state agencies work with them more in those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, PK. And by the way, for both of you, my wife has the Wainema Ranch Wild Horse Sanctuary with 130 of them out there. So if you have anything you're not doing this weekend, come help me shovel poop. Okay, it's out there. Here's a big concern I have right now in the state of Nevada. I see two schools of thought. One up here in the north in the rurals, and I also see one down in Las Vegas. Okay, and what concerns me is, are we going to be able to work with 3/4 of our population and get anything done? I'll start with you, PK.
That may be one of the bigger challenges we have, is the population is down south. But if we can get more Republicans down there elected, we're still in the party together, we're still in the caucus together, and we'll work. And the best example of where we are having arguments is in such things as the mining tax. Las Vegas, Clark County does not understand mining in Nevada and what it brings to Nevada. They did it with this per pupil funding program when they changed. It really only helps Clark County. So we have to learn to get more Republicans elected, get us working together, and then see what we can work on. And I'd like to give Clark County, to be honest with you, more home rule so we don't have to vote on their various issues. Let them try to solve their own problems and let us handle our problems up north here.
Wow. Thank you, PK. Gary?
Yeah, obviously the Las Vegas area is entirely different than Winnemucca or Elko or Minden or even Reno, although Reno is kind of deteriorating a little bit. But it goes back to the same issue. People have lost their confidence in government. And the most important thing is to restore that confidence, but not a phony restoration, an actual restoration where from the school board on up to the state legislature, that the people begin to believe, and rightfully believe, that what they say matters and that they will be listened to, and they are participants in their own government. And if we can do that, restore that confidence, even some of the Democrats are going to make a little more sense. The same thing's in the Democratic Party. There's a lot of Democrats that are not happy with what the official Democratic Party is doing now, and they have no control of it. I remember when Harry Reid last ran for office, he only got 70% of the vote in the Democrat Party. There was 30% that voted against him.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Gentlemen, we're running down the time for this debate, and I have we have just a few minutes to address a few issues, minus the conversation of election integrity, which we've covered a few times. So I'd like to take that off the table. During this time, as you're running through the campaigns, you typically have a couple of bills already in mind and some BDRs pre-written in advance. I'd like to know your top 3 priorities that represent your district specific that you have in mind for your next term. I believe it starts with you again, Mr. Schmidt.
I've stated on the campaign trail that my first 3 bill draft requests will be to repeal the commerce tax, the most onerous, largest tax increase ever in the history of Nevada, which really has inhibited small businesses as well as big businesses from coming to the state, and it's just changed the mindset across the nation as to Nevada being a good place to conduct business. And the second one is that the legislature comply with the open meeting law. The third one is that the legislature comply with the public records law. Philip here voted in 2015 for a bill, AB 496, that exempted the legislature from the open meeting law. He'll tell you that it just clarified the law. Go to my website and you'll see it did not clarify the law. It put in law an opinion from the LCB, and that has to be changed to restore the confidence in government.
PK?
Thank you.
So am I allowed to rebut that, or is that?
Yes.
No, it's your turn.
You can rebuttal. Yes, for-
Yeah, you can rebuttal.
Yes. Yes.
Very good, thank you. On that last comment, there was also 62 other people. That vote passed unanimously across. And if you read the bill, it put into statute what had been in practice, not only in Nevada, but across the country on legislative priorities, that they don't have to divulge certain information. How do you strategize on bills and then let the Democrats know what your strategy is? So that's what it was really addressing on it. So
Do I
that's
get a
the end.
rebuttal?
My rebuttal?
And that is, you strategize in public forum before the people, not in the back rooms making your backroom deals. The government should be open in front of the people, not
Okay.
in the back rooms.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Gary.
PK, same question to you, sir.
First bill I've already introduced is what was introduced in the last session. The Democrats wouldn't give a hearing to it, is the to have Nevada join the Nurses Compact. We are 49th in this country for our patient-to-nurse ratio. If you wonder some of the reasons why you have problems getting appointments, why when you're in the hospital, when you ring the bell, it's because we don't have the nurses. I want to bring more nurses into this state. That's one. Another one would be the government or the governor's emergency powers. I don't care, Republican or Democrat, they need to be limited, and they need to be brought back before the legislature for review and approval after certain periods of time. We've suffered 2 years under tyrannical emergency powers by our governor without any legislative input. The third one is I want to bring in E-Verify to require the state, which is doing it, but all employers must use E-Verify when they go to hire. That's 3. I can go on with some more if you'd like, the animal abuse, but I'm just out of time. Thank you.
All right. Gary?
Thank you, PK.
Okay. All right, thank you. Ready? Last question from me, I believe, is what are we going to do? Look at what's taken place in Las Vegas now. Do you realize Las Vegas, Nevada, and I see it coming up to northern Nevada? Las Vegas and PK, you were in law enforcement. They had more murders in Las Vegas than 4 Latin American countries combined, okay, this last year. That's amazing. That we can't continue with this open borders and the crime that we're faced with. What do you intend to do about it?
Gentlemen, before we get started, we'll have 1 minute, just as a reminder.
You only have 1 minute, so shoot fast.
Shoot fast, quickly. The open borders I can't directly deal with. That's a federal issue. The other ones, though, is we must prosecute, and we must prosecute to the full extent of the law. That's the first thing that will stymie some of that. The second thing is we've got to make sure that we back and support our law enforcement. make sure that they have proper training, proper equipment to respond, and then put them out there and let them deal with the issues. But the prosecution, the law enforcement, and we also have to get the people involved to call in when they see something. That statement of see something, say something is very truthful. You have to be willing to speak up. But I'll get back to prosecution. I've seen it over and over again. It's the laxing of the laws by the Democrats recently have helped. It almost promotes illegality. But you've got to start prosecuting and using that as the first line of defense once they're caught, and support the law enforcement to get there. Thank you.
Thank you, PK. Gary.
1 minute, huh? Well, again, it starts with restoring people's confidence in the government. And at the state level, we can give them tools that restore their confidence. By expansion and improvement of the open meeting law, public records law, the ethics law, and so that they have confidence to go to their local meetings and to deal with their local district attorneys and their local sheriffs, local police forces, and the district attorneys from the cities, which are appointed, not elected, and get involved and support the police and support crime prevention and prosecution at that local level. But so many people have just tuned out. You know, they've tuned out of the whole system, and that's the problem. It starts in Washington, D.C., and it comes right down to your local water board, and certainly to your school boards. And that confidence has to be restored, or this country's in trouble, big trouble.
Thank you very much, Gary. Gary, I'm going to start with you. This is the final. You've got 1 minute, and then we'll go to you, PK. 1 minute. Why do the people in this room and outside of this room need to vote for you for Assembly?
Well, because I've proven, you go to my website, Reform Nevada Politics, which the name itself says something. I didn't set it up for this campaign. I set it up about 30 years ago. I've been fighting abusive, oppressive, arrogant government for more than 40 years, and I've been defending my liberties, but in the process, I'm defending all your liberties. And I've been gone to those meetings. I've attended thousands of meetings. And you need somebody in the legislature that will speak up and be heard. And I can tell you, for the last 3 years, I've attended dozens of rallies out in front of the Capitol down there. From everything from Save the Wild Horses to COVID stuff. I'm not supposed to say that, but I have attended rallies that dealt with it. And that I've never once seen Mr. O'Neill out at one of those rallies. As a matter of fact, I've never seen any other legislator out at those rallies. And I'll be there. I'll be the voice of the people.
Thank you, Gary. PK, final minute.
Thank you. I just want to thank you all for being here and listening to us tonight. We've had some interesting discussions, questions, and answers. I want to tell you, in my terms in the legislature, even in the minority, I've been able to pass bills, good for Nevada. I've been able to pass bills that protect you, increase penalties against elderly crimes committed, to deal with such things as medicine and medical providers, to improve our law enforcement, to allow them better technology to address crimes and solutions. I have been I fought also to defeat bills such as AB 286, which would have prevented anybody with a concealed weapon, including off-duty law enforcement, from carrying a firearm in a gaming establishment. I fought that. I stood up and argued it left and right across the board. It was defeated finally. I have fought for you. I have represented you both in the legislature and in 40 years of law enforcement and other community services. I ask for your support, and I thank you for your support.
PK, Gary, thank you both very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
They did a great job. Give them another round of applause. With that in mind, we're doing the next interview. And that's going to be with Cherelle Mendenhall. She is running for U.S. Senate for Nevada. She can go over many of her qualifications. Very very much a business owner and also has some very strong ideas. Cherelle, if you get up here. Jennifer, Eddie.
Did someone
Em-
drink out of this water first, or should I bring my own?
Get your own.
Get my own.
Be safe.
You want water?
Safe water.
We'll get some water.
You're better looking.
By the way, she's only 38, right?
37 right now, yep.
37. Oh my God, I can't remember back.
How you doing? That's all right. I'll take it.
Anyway, she's got a bright future.
It's fine.
You guys ready?
We're ready.
Ready?
You ready, timer?
I'm ready to go.
Take it away.
All right. I'll start. Cherelle, good to see you again.
You as well.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Talk to me.
Why? Why did you lose your mind and decide to run for United States Senate?
It's a great question. I grew up looking up to this party. And I watched as it eroded year after year, election after election. We've become apathetic. The reason why we have so many of these issues, it's because of us. We've stood on the sidelines. We've allowed them to come after our Constitution. We've allowed them to come after our kids. So, since I sat on the sidelines, I prayed that someone else would do what needs to be done, and they didn't do it. I said, okay, it's on me. I don't get to complain anymore if I'm not doing my job.
Good for you. Okay, Jennifer?
Cherelle, there's been questions because you have not been in an elected official position, so I'm just going to call the elephant out in the room and
Yeah.
say, why the Senate? Why now? I understand your passion for this, but tell us why you feel that you're qualified for the Senate position so early in your career of campaigning.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of different pieces to that answer. Number one is look at the political climate. I do not want to be in politics. But I saw what was going on, and I knew that someone different needed to go into Washington, get the job done, and get out. When I'm elected, I'll be the youngest Republican female senator in history, and I want to go in and inspire the next generation to want to be in office. What that means is we have different conversations, and it's not that you actually have to build this career of politics and allow corruption along the way, and then you get there and you stay for who knows how long. So I want to show it can be done differently. You can take your business acumen, you can take your expertise, you can bring it to Washington, you can get the job done and get out.
Wow. Thank you, Cherelle.
Thank you.
Okay, my question this time. Ready? You're very passionate about every question that has been asked you. One that I want you to really elaborate on right now is very near and dear to you, and that's human trafficking.
Whew. So I'll kind of give a little context to that. My sister went missing 4 years ago, and we still don't know where she's at. So if you guys don't know that, that's kind of the backstory there. I can't shadow box something I can't see. I don't know how to heal or mend in that area. So what I can do is aggressively go after human trafficking. Every 30 seconds, a child goes missing. Why are we not outraged? Why do we not have task forces? So when I'm talking about making sure we're securing our border, that fight is very personal for me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Sorry, there was a backstory. I would like a little bit of a follow-up.
Eat the mic.
Thank you, gentlemen. Got it. To follow up on that conversation, what do you have in mind as you enter the Senate? You have BDRs already set up, you said. You have ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Share with me your top 3 ideas that you will present, and how will you get them passed in a minority position if you get there at this time?
Absolutely. So I'm going to answer that backwards, kind of. So one of the things that I've been doing along this journey is having different conversations, and how I do that is by setting an example. Human trafficking is a human issue, not a party issue. We all have kids, we all have grandkids, we all have nieces, we all have nephews, so you make this personal. That's how you pass a bill. We have to start thinking like that. We can't say that this is a partisan, oh, she's a Republican. Guess what? If I've done the work, if I've done the legwork, I want to make sure that we're passing bills that are good for people. That's number one. Number two, task forces. I want to make sure our police, so police local and state, are on alert. They're trained in order to be able to identify what's going on and these kids that are trafficked. That's one of the big pieces. Number two is building out the infrastructure so that we don't necessarily just go after the kids itself. We actually go after the rings. We have to go for the individuals that are buying and selling these kids. Lastly, it's our border. A lot of this starts at our border. We have to shut it down. We have to secure our borders. I'm a huge advocate of making sure we have legal immigration. But we need to put these individuals on notice that are here on expired visas, let them go out, come back in legally, and go from there.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. By the way, there's two reasons, because I talked to a German, if you will, military lady who has left Germany because they chased her out of the country, and she is now living in the United States and trying to protect our border. Right. And she said there's only two reasons people are coming across the border. They're being paid to come over and vote, or human trafficking, and that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, we could have this conversation for hours and hours, and a lot of times I get so passionate or I choke up that I just want to go down to the facts. The facts are we are not paying enough attention. We are not putting enough manpower behind this. Uvalde was a tragedy. 19 individuals died.
Wow.
But let's juxtapose that. How many minutes have we been talking? Every minute,
6. That's
2 kids. There you go. 12.
Whoa.
In our 6 minutes. Let me put that into perspective. And then break that down per hour, per day. So these reasons and these open borders that it's causing, everyone wants to kind of pigeonhole it and say that we are racist. No, that is not the case. I want to protect our children. I want to make sure that if we do have any errors or issues in our immigration process, we're going to fix that as well. But first and foremost, we're protecting America's children.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
On to the next subject. There are a lot of other issues that a United States Senator needs to handle, deal with, and to fight. What is your next most important issue that you would take to the Senate, and how would you address it?
Water.
Okay. Elaborate.
The reason why I say water is it's a matter of priorities. You take a look at our economy, you take a look at every single thing that's going on within our state, and we can't expand, we can't have and grow our economy, we can't leverage our properties and our lands if we don't address the fact that we're going to be out of water in 10 years.
Right.
So what that looks like is it could potentially take 5 to 7 years, and that's on a good pace in order to get the PAC, the environmental red tape cut, and get through and bring over either water from the or the Columbia, drop it into the Colorado, and start feeding Lake Mead again. So those are the conversations that need to urgently be had, because I'm not willing to wait till we're in an emergency state and we put a Band-Aid on things. We need to be proactive and not reactive. So we take a look at the numbers, we address our water issue. A lot of people like to talk about desalination, but I haven't seen an ocean nearby Nevada's borders. So we need to make sure that we're being realistic and that we're having a solution for our future, and we can build out our economy after that.
Wow. You know, Cherelle, when you go to the Senate, one of the things that you're going to be faced with, and everybody in this room knows it, is the fact the other side of the aisle, they're coming after our guns. Okay? The guns have done nothing wrong. Just evil people have done things wrong. They're coming after our guns. Are you prepared for that? And I know you're not a city slicker.
I'm absolutely prepared for that. So anytime anybody asks me a question, is I grew up riding a tricycle and shooting a gun. But my dad taught me what it meant to wield a gun, the power of a gun. So I'm very aggressively going to be going after that. We actually need to roll back a lot of the laws that they have in place. This is the Constitution that our Second Amendment shall not be infringed. That's where we stand. So there are 25 constitutional carry states. I aggressively want to make sure that Nevada is one of them. In addition to that, something that's important to me is we actually address the root cause, because we keep having these debates back and forth, and they are tireless. What is the real issue? You take a look at side by side, the amount of deaths via vehicle, that's about 43,000. The amount of deaths are almost simultaneous, with guns as well. But that was a 14% increase in 2020, and most of those are suicides. They're not mass shootings that people like to tout in the media that are the real issue. Let's go back and see the mental health issue. Let's look at all the times that these individuals, and if you look at them, that many of them have had these red flags pop up as these kids have made threats, or these teachers have specifically said, these kids are unstable, and you can look throughout history at these mass shootings. We need to go after these individuals, not the ones that are law-abiding citizens.
Right.
So under that conversation, my question to you is, you mentioned about going after those individuals. That's a mental health issue.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to address gun control and mental health issues? Do you have any plans for that?
Me going
Yes.
out, I'm not a gun control person. So I'm supporting
You
this.
were saying about the mental health issues
mental
and gun.
Okay, so I want to
together,
split that up. So I'll split
Thank
that
you.
up. So what I mean by that, mental health is if a kid is reported multiple times for being disturbed, and the FBI, which we have the data on this, the FBI has been notified, and they do nothing on it, and then they go and kill 20 plus kids. That's when we have to have the conversation. I'm talking about making sure we're addressing these real threats that are being had. So that's the mental health issue I'm talking about, separate from, I'm not saying we're going to have gun control and tie that, because obviously in California that's something that they're trying to do, is specifically state that if they feel they're unstable, they can actually go and take their guns away from them. I am very much against that.
Thank you for clarifying.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Very good. I've got to ask you a question. By the way, you mentioned the FBI. Are they still part of America, the FBI? No, I'm just joking. Just
They're
joking.
apparently part of the Democratic Party.
I do have a question for Cherelle, and that is, you're going to be headed to Capitol Hill.
Yes.
And my question to you is, are you more for federal rights or state rights?
State. And you mentioned the Department of Education earlier. I truly believe there's a lot of three-letter agencies that don't serve their purpose anymore, and we need to get rid of them.
Thank you very much.
We can utilize that money in a different way, and I think that that allows us to free up some funding and address the fact that we have a massive deficit, and then start going after things like human trafficking, securing our borders, making sure our veterans have the money that they deserve, and we can start boosting our schools.
Going back to the education conversation, with the focus on education, there was a lot of conversations around the teachers being forced to teach to the test back in the day. What will you do when you go there as a focus to help our education standards for Nevada and across our nation?
I love that question, because I believe that we need to do something drastically different. And that means we need to start teaching critical thinking again. In general, I have a direct impact, on a certain amount of things, but education is something that I want to have a leadership impact on, and that is inspiring these individuals and this curriculum in order to be something that drives these kids to challenge them again. It is not about the teachers, and it is not about our proficiency level as far as getting as many we can to graduate. We're having a higher graduation rate and a lower proficiency level.
Wow.
And so that is dismal. That is not what it's about. And that's where you check a box. I feel like in Washington, that's where you check a box on education. Like, oh, we have more kids graduating, but we have our lower proficiency level. That does not make sense, and that should not be happening. We need to start turning out brilliant minds again. We need to be passionate about education, not checking a box.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cherelle, you've got a minute, okay?
I got 1 minute.
You've got 1 minute. 2 minutes, so you're going to get 2 minutes.
Okay.
I want to know why, especially with the group that's running against you, your opponents, why should I vote for you as opposed to the other great candidates?
Yeah. There's a couple of things. So as I'm going into this, the thing that makes me different is I'm a business owner who's never ran for office before, who wants to go in and do things differently, and I've shown that in my example of how I've ran my race. Let me tell you, my husband and I have been knocking doors almost every single day. A couple days ago, we were in Mesquite, And something I've built out is an exit and reentry program for our military that hasn't been built out since 1775. So I'm having this conversation with this man at the door, and all of a sudden this woman whips around the corner and she asks me a question, and I said yes. She reaches over, grabs me, and starts crying. And then she brings me in her house and she says, "You want to see my son?" Her son was active duty and committed suicide. So, for me, I'm very passionate about this country. I'm very passionate about our party, and I'm not willing to do business as usual. There were 11 Republican senators that voted against that $40 billion to go to Ukraine, while 2 hours later, simultaneously voting down the $48 billion to go to the United States of America. It's not just Republicans we need in office. We need people who love America in
Right.
office.
Well said. Well said. Let's give it up for Cherelle Mendenhall, everyone. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for having me.
That was beautiful.
Sharelle, you did an outstanding job, and she's from Las Vegas. The next candidate is also
East
came
LA.
up here from Las Vegas. It'll be an interview. Bill Hawksteader. You guys stay up there.
Oh, you're going to interview Bill now?
Huh?
Interview Bill now?
Yeah, we're staying up here.
Okay. Do I have to sit in the middle still?
If you want to ask questions, Sharelle or her husband. Sharelle, are you going to have a few minutes to answer questions? Or, I mean, around if people ask you.
Ray, correction. It was Nye County, not Las Vegas. Nye County, not Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Nye County.
Near
Well,
Las Vegas, but there was a reason
yeah,
for that.
in the south. All right, take it away.
Lives in my town with Art Bell. Used to live with Art Bell, right?
Art Bell's was about
Was.
2 miles from my house.
Oh, really? Yeah,
right,
used to have lunches with him. Good guy.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with Jennifer. And the first question, if you don't mind, I'll ask it, and then we'll go to Jennifer for the first. Why? Why did you decide to run for office, and what makes you better than your opponents?
Okay, so yeah, I get asked that question often. In fact, my brother that lives in Georgia said, "Did I fall on my head?" And I've never been a politician before, but I saw a breakdown of our systems, our homes and our schools and our churches and our politics have lost their sense of decorum and civility. And we do a lot more name calling and finger pointing than actually getting things done. And I felt that way even before the election. It had nothing to do with the election recently. It's just something I've been seeing kind of growing. And again, I've never been a politician, and I just think that is something that I can help fix.
Wow.
Thank you for that. My question to you then would be the same as I asked earlier. Tell me your qualifications as a job applicant for this position. Where would you have gained knowledge, wisdom, any ability to do the job?
Sure. So I'm actually one of the older people in this race. There are a couple that are older, but I rank at the top as far as age. And age is not necessarily a qualifier. But if you've actually lived your life well and you've done the things that are necessary to succeed in life, whatever that means to you, whatever success means to you, then that's an important marker for what we can do in leadership and being in the United States Senate or Congress or any other position. So with me, I joined the military, the Air Force, a long time ago. Army Reserve first, went to college, joined the Air Force back during the Jimmy Carter administration. So I go back a little bit. I was part of Air Force intelligence, so I was trusted with a lot of good information that we had. I was also appointed as a liaison to the Defense Intelligence Agency out of Washington, or actually Bowling Air Force Base. Did that for 2 years. Served in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, first Gulf War, and then after the military, got involved in healthcare. So over the last 25 or 30 years, I've been involved in healthcare, and I've risen to the point now where I'm the vice president with the Mayo Clinic out of Rochester, Minnesota. I'm their West Coast VP, and they said, if you choose any place, make sure you're an hour from an airport. That's why I'm in Nye County, not Las Vegas. So I can be an hour from the airport from where I live in Pahrump.
Well, thank you very much. Nevada, let's talk Nevada. What's the biggest concern you have for the state of Nevada right now? Would it be crime? Would it be education? What would it be?
Well, my first priority for Nevada is the same as it would be for the nation. and that's our financial security, our financial superiority in the world. We need to make sure our economic superiority is there so that we can do all the other things that we need to do. So as a nation, I mean, as a senator, we're looking at things for what's good for the state of Nevada, but we also have to be responsible for what we do because it affects all the other states. And as a nation, a United States senator does make those big decisions, and we guide the economy to be the biggest in the world so that we can do all the other things that we need to accomplish, like a military dominance, and then fixing our own America First agenda. We have things at the border. We have problems within the country that need to be fixed. They can't be fixed if you're a poor country, so I want to fix the economy.
Wow.
Circling back to questions we've asked other candidates, I would like you to talk to me about your knowledge of sex trafficking and any of the solutions that you may bring to the table as well.
Sure. So I know it's a horrible thing, and it is an area that that people have more knowledge than I do on that. However, I will say that being like we are in Nevada with the types of industry we have with casinos and gaming and some of the other laws that we have where you can have some of that type of industry legally in 15 of our 17 counties, you're going to get a bit of that, and it's going to be attractive to people to come to Nevada and participate in that. One of the things I think we need to make sure that we do is a better job of investigating where the sources of the sex trafficking come from. It involves drugs, it involves money, it involves everything dealing with immigration, and all of those things affect that particular trade in the state. So I think as long as we support our law enforcement and support our blue, we can do a better job of investigating and prosecuting those types of crimes.
Wow. Let me ask you a question. You're now our United States Senator, and you're going, and first thing out of the chute, you're asked to vote on a bill. You know for a fact that the majority of your constituents want you to vote one way, but in your heart, you think you need to vote the other way. Which way is Senator Hockstedler going to do?
Well, I think you have to be able to trust the person that you elect to the office. And we do want to make sure that we vote what our constituents want, and that would be the way that I would normally lead. However, I reserve the right, as the elected official, that if I in my conscience and with all my years of experience, I got 6 decades on this earth, I think that we need to make sure that we also have a little bit of leeway for the occasional discretion that the senator might make a decision that maybe some of the uninformed public might not actually understand. I'm not saying that all of the public is uninformed, but we need to make sure that the senator that we elect is the person that has a solid background and a solid ability to make the right decisions for Nevada and the United States.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much.
You will come under fire for being a senator in our state and standing against some of the constituents' wishes and the ways that you may vote. When that happens, how will you handle it?
As far as being under fire?
There will be a moment, as you just said, you will vote your conscience. You would ask for grace for that. How will you handle it when your constituents come back to you and say, you've been voting against what we've asked you to do?
Well, right. I think the first thing that we have to consider is transparency. Make sure that we're a communicator. So make sure that we come back to Nevada and talk about the things that we have that are facing us, the things that we're going to accomplish, the things that we did accomplish in the past, the things that are facing us in the future. You know, a lot of people don't understand what's going on in the outside forces of this country. We have a lot of foreign nations that are bent on the destruction of the United States. We need a senator that has the background that I have with everything I've done in the military and what I've done in the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency. I understand the machinations of China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea and what they're trying to do in the long game. We have a long game that they're playing, especially with the Chinese. And we have to have a strong senator that understands those things. I plan on being in the Senate Armed Services Committee. I'm highly qualified for that. The Senate Intelligence Committee. And my first weeks and months at the Senate aren't going to be learning how to find the bathroom and the cafeteria. I will be getting things done. People will be coming back to me saying, Senator Hockstedler, what do you think about this situation or that situation? I know they can draw on that lifetime of experience and also the specialty training that I've had, all the education and training that makes me what I am today.
Wow. Not last question, but another question for you is, you just mentioned it indirectly. I want to know your take on, are we being attacked by the CCP right now, in your opinion?
In my opinion, yes, we are. We've been under attack for a long time. We've been at war with China for a long time. If you expand your definition of war, it's not necessarily bullets crossing a field at each other. We have been hit by cybersecurity and biosecurity. All of these things are actually attacks on the United States. China, again, like I said, is playing the long game. They want to divide us rather than let us unite. So anything they can do to divide our country, and anything they can do to divide our individual parties, like the Republican Party split too, even right here in Nevada. Look at what's going on in the state. It's absolutely insane when you think about it. But China understands the long game. Now, Americans, we like quick fixes. We like to see fix quick and get on with it. And we have a long strategy that we're going to have to match against China to make sure things are better.
Wow, good.
Thank you. We, as a local community and as a small town state as a whole, we deal with issues that come across the border from California often. One of the questions I asked earlier was about the fire situations. We've been dealing with these for multiple years, and truly it seems the only relief that we can get is from our national legislators that are going to make different decisions. Have you had time to think about what you will do if you're elected to support having these fires be managed better, the situations on the mountain, and the lawsuit issues that we are dealing with between California, Nevada, and the United States government?
I haven't had time to specifically research that, but I will say it makes common sense that all of our leaders, all of our elected officials on both sides of Nevada and California need to work together to come up with solutions that will help everybody. We need to make sure, and I don't necessarily believe the federal government needs to be involved in that. If we can get a governor of California, a governor of Nevada to work together, and all the other parties that need to come together on that, whether it be with the fire service and all of those things, we need to work together to solve all of the issues that might confront us. Not just this one issue, but anything else that comes up. You know, there's going to be multiple issues when you deal with a large state like California and a large state like Nevada. We obviously are at a disadvantage from a population standpoint, but we should have equal representation that makes sure that we can effectively change the laws.
Wow. I have a question for you when it comes, you talked about, China. And I'm going to tell you some of the concerns I have. I want to hear from you. What can we do about the following? I'm not concerned about China coming to our shore and with weaponry coming into our, because we have the largest army in the world when it comes to people with hunting licenses, okay? Right. It ain't gonna happen. But what does scare me is last year, 67.9% of all farmland was bought up by China. What are we gonna do to stop that? All they gotta do is turn it into a desert and say no more food.
That's correct. The farmland has been bought up a lot by China. And not just Nevada, but also in Utah. I mean, this is a regional thing that's happening. And what they're doing, if you don't understand the problem, for those that don't understand what's going on, is they're doing it for the production of hay. So down in Armagosa Valley, which is south of here, it's closer down into the Nye County area, I know the people that run the different cattle operations down there. There's 15,000 head of cattle. And they have trouble getting hay because China is farming the hay, putting it in containers. They squish it in like a compactor, and they put it on the ships at Long Beach and ship it over to China. So we are lacking our resources here. We're lacking our hay, and obviously the taking up the agriculture and the land is a big problem. We do need to stop that. So we need to figure out a way. I don't know specifically what we can do. We must have some type of mechanism where we can restrict foreigners from buying land in America. I know I can't go to China and buy land. I don't think I can.
No.
So, and why would I? But I mean, we need to figure out what's going on, and I am aware of the problem. I've been told that.
Wow. Okay.
There's been mention of guns across the board. I'm going to ask you, are you for or against constitutional carry?
I am for constitutional carry. I believe in the Second Amendment. I think that we have to make sure that, we have some laws that are age appropriate, buy a gun when you're 18 or over, things of that nature. If you're a felon, you're not supposed to have a gun. So I don't know if we really want to go to allowing those things, but constitutional carry means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So unless you have a reason to be marked as not having a gun, you should be allowed to buy a gun and carry a gun. And that goes with carrying concealed or open carry. Now, Nevada's an open carry state. I carry open all the time. I really do, and I enjoy that freedom. And I'm a responsible gun owner. I've been former law enforcement, obviously former military. So I know how to handle a gun specifically. I don't know if everybody does. I would like to think that if people want to get the training, we should make the training affordable or free for those that want it. And I think we can have a better society if everybody's trained.
Wow, thank you very much. Let me ask you this, if you don't mind. I think one of the biggest problems we have here in the state of Nevada, for a lot of reasons, is education, okay? Education, to me, is one of the biggest problems, not just because I want to see better turnout of educated children. I'm telling you, how do we entice companies like Tesla to come over with a big ad that says, please come to Nevada. We have the dumbest workforce in the United States.
Right. So I will tell you this, and of course, everybody knows the statistic that we're marked very low on education, but I think that we do need to look at getting rid of or scaling back the Department of Education on a federal level and give it back to the states. And then when you give it back to the states, let the states work on an opportunity basis with those manufacturers, those industries that want to put people here for whatever reason. Let's say they need to build a plant, they need 1,000 high-skilled workers. Give us the time, give us the money to get those high-skilled workers, help, the industry can help pay the bill, so it's not on the taxpayers, and then we can have high-paying jobs in Nevada that benefit Nevadans, and we don't have to bring people in from Dallas or from Los Angeles to fill those jobs. So we got to bring up the education levels for those people to fill those jobs. Now, with that comes the growth. We have to make sure that we have responsible growth. If you have areas like Las Vegas, which are just expanding at such a large rate that they can't keep up with the resources, the traffic, the water, everything else that's going on down there, we need to be able to restrict the growth. But opportunities and education go together.
50 seconds.
How much?
50 seconds.
Okay, you got a minute, a little less. Why should I vote for you? Why should they vote for you?
Yes. Okay. So I'll let you know this. What the white space is between me and the other candidates is my life of experience. If you look at my resume, the things that we just talked about, I have the demeanor and the fortitude to get things done. I will be a strong voice for Nevada. I will make sure that your voice is represented in Washington, D.C. by a conservative Republican that actually wants to stand up and get things done. I won't be a third row backbench senator that just raises her hand every time Chuck Schumer says to do something. So with that, with my experience and everything, I think I can be a strong senator and a strong voice for you. And if you look at the Republican candidates that we have now, they're all great people, but if we don't put the right person through this primary, we're going to waste our vote because I don't know that everybody in this race can beat Catherine Cortez Masto. I've met her, I think I can.
Thank you very much, and good luck.
Bill,
All right.
thank you. You did a great job.
Great job.
You guys come down here. If the candidates for 16 debate would come up to the top here. I don't know if all of you were here when Bill was explaining about Facebook and YouTube, what they did to us twice now. But speak your piece. Anyway, with that in mind, Jennifer and Eddie, start the debate.
All right, guys, let's go over the rules again really quick for you so you know. You're going to get to kick off with a 90-second introduction. Then when a question is asked, each of you are going to get 60 seconds to ask the question. If you hear one of your opponents make an answer and you want a rebuttal, you raise your hand, you'll receive a 30-second rebuttal. So 90 seconds to begin, 90 seconds to end, 60 seconds per answer, 30 seconds per rebuttal. We're on the clock. We got about 35 minutes total for this, so be mindful of that. And if everybody asks for rebuttals, we're only going to be able to get through 2 questions, right? So then when I show you the yellow card, it means you're at 30 seconds. When I show you the red card, that means you're about 5 seconds from me throwing something at you. All right. Have at it, guys.
One last thing, while each person is talking, we do ask, since we've had issues in other debates, that we allow the respect of the process for each other and that we don't interrupt each other while they're speaking. With that,
Yeah.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're very excited to have you here and to hear your information. We're going to get started with introductions first with 90 seconds.
Yeah, we'll start with Monica. Monica?
My name is Monica J. Stabbert on the ballot. Most people know me just as Monica J. I've been in the media here for almost 30 years, and almost 20 of that was, actually a little over 20 of that was in conservative talk. I've met a lot of politicians in my lifetime, and that's why I finally decided to stop telling people that they needed to get involved in politics, good, honest, average Americans, and I decided to do it myself. If I wasn't willing to do it, why should I expect anybody else to? I started working when I was 14 at my parents' automotive shop, my grandparents' automotive shop. I grew up there. Then we moved to Los Angeles, and I learned what the big city was like, and then we moved back to a small town of Redding. I'm a small town girl, but I've got big ideas for this state because I know that we're in a lot of trouble, and it's only going to get worse in the coming years. So I hope to change that in the state legislature because, well, all government is local, and we need to focus on that.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Monica.
All right. Coming to you, Tim.
My name's Tim Duvall. I bring 50 years of business leadership experience. I've spent my time in 2 Fortune 50 companies. I've started 4 small businesses and successfully ran those. I now have a boutique medical device company, one of 4 in the world that make products for premature infants and children. I bring not only that experience, but I've been involved in turnaround companies. And so when you're in a turnaround company, you know how to address problems, how to solve them, and how to move forward. This state has very many foundational problems that haven't been addressed, and I believe we need to address them now if we're going to be strong into the future, and we're not going to lavish in last place in almost every single category. So that's my agenda. My plan is to make Nevada strong. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Tatro.
Great. Thank you. I just want to thank everyone tonight and Red Move for putting this on and all of you to stay engaged and involved in this important process. I just think it's so critical that we have events like this, and I want to thank all the candidates for coming too so that everyone here and online can hear the differences and the issues. For those of you who don't know me, Don Tatro, grew up in Carson City. I was born and raised. I was kind of a ranch rodeo kid. Grew up working that, training horses, working construction, where I learned a good hard work ethic, and I also learned a lot of common sense from those individuals. I was also fortunate to be raised in a family that was very involved in the community, from Sir Optimus, my dad being in Rotary, to being a judge and learning about that, and just learning about how important it is to give back. And this is a sacrifice for me, and this is something that I want to do so that my kids can grow up in the same Nevada with the opportunities that Nevada has presented to me. I think we need a fresh leadership. I have a track record of getting things done and advocating for the residents in this community, businesses, and being involved and understanding the issues in the state. Thank you very much.
And Lisa Krasner.
Hello, I am Assemblywoman Lisa Krasner. I would first like to thank Ray Rocha for putting this event on and thank all of you for attending and caring about your politics and your community. First, I'll go through my education. I was the first person in my family to attend a 4-year university. I worked my way through UCLA and earned my bachelor's degree. I then was the first person to go on and earn a doctorate degree. I earned a doctorate degree in law from the University of Laverne College of Law. After that, I'll talk about my experience. I've served 3 regular sessions and 3 special sessions in the Nevada legislature, fighting for you for the last 6 years. In addition, I teach college courses on the United States Constitution and Nevada Constitution. I do that currently at Truckee Meadows Community College, and prior to that, I taught at the University of Phoenix, where I taught courses on the United States Constitution, state and local political processes, advocacy and mediation, critical thinking, and business law to the MBA students. Endorsements, I'm endorsed by nearly every law enforcement agency in the state of Nevada. I'm endorsed by Nevada Right to Life. I'm endorsed by the state of Nevada Republican Party. I'm endorsed by the state of Nevada Veterans Association. I'm endorsed by Veteranism Politics International, and I have an A rating with the NRA and an A rating with Nevada Firearms Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, but I'm going to start with you, if I may, okay? And then everybody will have an opportunity. And here's my question, and then I'll explain the question. Do you believe in life after primary? And what I mean by that is one of the things we have done wrong as Republicans is we eat our young, okay? Meaning that after the primary, everybody is filled with their candidate didn't win or they did win, and then we've got another division. Is there life after primary? And I'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Krasner. Yes, I do believe in life after the primary. I gave you just a few examples of the things I've done here in the state of Nevada, but there's so many more. I've always been involved in my community. I believe that's my civic duty. I've been a judge for the We the People civics competition for our high school students for more than 6 years. I love doing that. Again, I teach courses on the United States Constitution at the college, so of course I do. Plus, I studied nothing but the law and the Constitution in law school. I was also a commissioner for the State of Nevada Commission on Aging and Disability for our senior citizens, a commissioner for the City of Reno Parks and Recreation Committee, advocating for a family-friendly environment, a board member of the State of Nevada PTA, president of the Reno Philharmonic Guild, a board member of the Alliance with Washoe County Medical Society, a board member of the Junior League of Reno, on the board of directors of Women in Government, helping other women to get elected to public office. Thank you. My time's up.
All right, thank you. As far as life after primary, absolutely, it's critical. I think that, if your candidate doesn't win, it's unfortunate, you shake it off, maybe, take a few days, but it's so critical that we turn out, that as Republicans, we get the majority, that we get the constitutional offices back. We're looking at so many things, and if we don't have those majorities, we can't effectively set out an agenda. We'll consistently be on the defense, and so I think it's so critical that we come together after all of this and go out and vote, urge all of the other Republicans to vote. We need to get out and vote now. Our numbers are low and for an early vote. And I mean, as all of us and just the critical issues facing this state, we need to have conservative leaders, we need to have fiscal leaders, and I urge everyone to move out. If you don't want to work for the candidate that beat your candidate, go work for another candidate. There are plenty of ways to get involved, so absolutely we need to be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don. Let's go to you, Tim. Tim?
Well, life after primary, my license plate on my truck says red 24, so that kind of says it all. So the other thing is I have put in and starting a PAC called Read Nevada. It's the way Massachusetts became the #1 educated state in the country, and I believe you start early, and with every pediatrician office, you put out literature and books, and you get children reading, and that's the way you start to improve things in the state. Second, there's a program called the Dave Ramsey Foundations in Personal Finance. I helped get that into 37 high schools here in northern Nevada, and starting this fall, it will go into every single one of Washoe's high schools and every single one of their junior high schools. So I'm going to be very active in helping make sure that takes place. Thank you.
To really answer the question, there is absolutely life after the primary. I absolutely adore this guy sitting next to me and his beautiful wife. We've helped each other put our banners back up when they were vandalized and torn down. And that's what we do, and that's what we need to do as a party. I am the first vice president of the Mount Rose Republican Women's Club. I deal with politicians every month. In the media, I deal with them every day. If I can't rely on other people, not one person actually gets elected. We get elected as a team. And, I want the insight of the people that are also running for this office once I win, that I want them to be able to come and help me make Nevada great again, to make sure that we get what we need accomplished, achieved. all of us together, win or lose, it's about turning Nevada red.
Thank you. I'll start first with you, Don Tatro, with a question.
By the way, you can do rebuttals.
I wasn't going to rebut anybody on that.
When there's one necessary. Thanks for the permission, Ray. My question is very similar to one I asked earlier this evening, and that is there has been reported a shortcoming of mining taxes to the state of Nevada. I'm going to ask, do you believe there is a shortage in taxes from the mining industry? And if so, what are your plans to help this shortage in Nevada as a whole? It's been reported all over the news. So
okay, so you're saying that
the
the expected revenue of the mining tax
The
is much
expected
lower than we
mining.
anticipated. Well, right now that's not a problem, and we shouldn't have passed that tax in the first place, is my belief. Our state is at a $600 million surplus. We shouldn't be looking at more ways to raise revenue. We should be looking at more ways for you to keep the money in your pocket. I voted against many of these things. Thank you. I voted against many of these issues in the interim finance committee of just throwing dollars into $250 million housing slush fund for the governor to pick and choose which projects he wants to do. We need to be fiscally conservative. We need to be looking at ways to cut, and we need to be looking at ways to keep the money in everyone else's pockets. I think it's crazy that we'd even be having a discussion of changing and what they call it, the modernization of taxes in the state. That's crazy. We need to be looking at how to cut taxes and cut the bureaucracy.
Thank you.
One of the things we have to be aware of is that mining tax increase was agreed to in order to stop the sales tax increase initiative and the occupancy tax initiative. Even though those initiatives qualified constitutionally for the ballot, they did find a judge who stayed those and took them off the ballot. But those are going to come right back around. I believe the reason they were taken off the ballot was because they didn't want the same thing to happen that happened during the commerce tax. And they knew those would be soundly defeated, especially right now when Nevada's families are suffering punishing inflation. And so we need to make sure that we take care of that. Also, if you look at some of the position papers of the Retail Association of Nevada, prior to the last legislature, they were lobbying to have a more steady tax program. The only one I can think of is income tax. So we have to be really aware of what's going on in the state.
Thank you. Monica?
So yesterday I was reading an article from the CEO of JP Morgan that said that we are coming upon an apocalyptic economy change, that we are going to be devastated. I'm sorry, but it's tough love. You have to say no. We're going to be cutting budgets of almost every department because the people of Nevada come first. If they can't survive, this state is not going to survive. That means we need to get rid of offices and that we need to get rid of, well, some salaries. Sorry, but it's got to happen if we are going to survive. And that's what I am looking at for the coming future for the state of Nevada is cut, cut, cut.
And Lisa?
Thank you, Lisa Krasner.
Monica, you're absolutely right.
rebuttal, my
70% of our small businesses have not regained their revenue levels of the pre-pandemic. And 75% of those businesses that have 25 or more employees only have 1 to 2 months of cash reserves on hand. So not only are families facing inflation, gas, soaring housing, they're now worried about losing their jobs, and we have to be very diligent about that.
Thank you, Lisa Krasner. The big mining tax actually came about during the 2021 Nevada legislative session, which I served in, and I voted no on that big mining tax. We don't need more money for education. We have a spending problem. Too much of the money that we do have for K through 12 education goes to administration, high-paid, over $100,000 salaries for administrators, and more of that money should be going right into the classrooms for our teachers and our children. So I don't think we have a problem at all, and I oppose that big mining tax. I voted no on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very good. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to start with you, Tim. Okay? I'm going to name 3 things: crime, education, and water. Now, if you don't like any one of those as the top issue here in Nevada, you pick one and tell me what you're going to do about it.
Everybody knows my stance on education. I think it's a foundational issue and needs to be solved. We can't keep being in last place or second to last place. You can debate that. But our children are not learning. We have to fundamentally change the approach to education. But there is still the other thing that I mentioned. With 70% of our small businesses struggling due to the mindless decisions of this pandemic, we now are faced with about 32% of our employment base potentially facing layoffs and hitting a recession unlike the 2008. It will be worse, it'll be more difficult, and we need to take charge of that now and give them a break.
Monica?
I'm going to have to go with a different answer that I gave a couple of weeks ago in Carson City, and that is government overreach. So many of our problems, whether it be with business, education, illegals, comes from government overreach. Too many regulations on our small businesses. The state is in the process of trying to take over the education system. Anybody remember the PTA? We need to put the education system back into the hands of the teachers and the parents. We need to get rid of those deputy superintendents, and I say even go take a different direction from the superintendent that we have. In California, they actually elect the county superintendent. We need to go that route as well. Government overreach touches every single person in this room, and we got to pull it back.
Thank you, Monica. Lisa?
Thank you. I have a different answer. As I walk door to door, the one issue that people keep telling me concerns them is voter integrity. And so I have already drafted 2 bills. One is a voter ID bill. It will require you or any citizen who wants to vote to show a picture ID to vote. If you can't afford one, the government will provide one for you free of charge through the DMV. That's the first bill I've drafted. The second bill is a bill that will limit the governor's emergency powers to 30 days. No more 2 years of emergency powers, just long enough to allow the legislature to be convened for a special session, allow experts to come in and testify, and allow the people to come in and have a voice in their government. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Don?
Thank you. I'm going to go with the answer I gave a few weeks ago as well, and that's leadership and accountability. We haven't had leadership through this whole pandemic. We haven't had accountability. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I introduced a bill limiting the governor's powers as well. I also think in education, we don't need to keep throwing good money after bad. I'm the president of a board of Ace Charter High School. They build a home and sell it every 2 years. It's a 5-star high school. We have 211 students, and I just handed out the diplomas. They're graduating diesel mechanics and framers, roofers, you name it. So there are ways to get creative. There are ways to do different things, and that's a 5-star high school. And I'm very proud to be a part of that. But leadership and accountability is where it starts.
One of the problems with 5-star high schools, I don't know if you know, but only one of those stars has to do with academics. So academics is only weighted 20% in our schools, and that's fundamentally wrong. We need to have academics be 80% in our schools, and then we can really achieve things. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will start with you, Tim. Monica. Excuse me, Monica?
Monica. We started with Tim last time.
My apologies. Monica.
You got it.
Gotcha. We have in your Senate district the Nevada-owned horses. This was a question I asked earlier. I'm going to ask you the same thing. What are your plans to help manage or to support the efforts of controlling population? Do you feel we have an issue with population of horse control? And if so, what would you do different than what they're already doing?
We do have an issue with the population, and again, as was said earlier, you either hate the wild horses or you love them. I absolutely love them. Unfortunately, we have an economic downturn, and a lot of our horses aren't wild horses anymore. They're domestic horses that have been turned out. I spent years in family planning, and I know that the way that we do it now, going after the mares That's not the way to do it. We need to go after the males and make it easier to sterilize them, and we need to keep them on the ranges where they feel comfortable, and we need to do more education from the people, or for the people out there, not to feed them, not to attract them, to just let them live their lives and call someone if they're being a nuisance, and let somebody else, a professional, deal with the issue. But other than that, let them be on the ranges.
Thank you. Lisa?
Thank you. I've spoke to so many people in regards to the wild horses, people in Virginia City, Carson City, Lovelock. I love the horses. The horses have run free in the state of Nevada for hundreds of years. I mean, we became a state in 1864. We signed our Constitution, October 31, 1864. I am not in favor of killing the horses. I am not in favor of neutering the horses. I am in favor of letting the horses run free like they've done for hundreds of years. I am in favor of fencing. I think the government should invest in a dual project with the national government in Washington, D.C., and fence off the lands that are the government lands. And if you don't know, 85% of Nevada is owned by the federal government. That land should just be fenced off so the horses can run free, and the people who say they're bothered are not bothered. But I love the horses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. So I believe that we need to have what an adequate population is set forth by the state, and we need to maintain that in some fashion, whatever is most reasonable to do that, put forward by the state and what the people want. I have noticed that there are far too many horses in areas that I've never seen them before in the state. When I'm out chucker hunting, I've noticed that there's a lot of horses in areas where I've just never seen them. So I think we're getting overpopulated, and my fear is that if there are too many, we'll have an inverse effect on other natural resources that we have in the community. So I think that just adequately funding and maintaining the populations and keeping people from feeding them and letting the professionals do that, because I notice there are a lot of horses where people are feeding them, and I've watched it happen over and over again. So if we could stop that practice, I think nature would take care of itself.
Thank you. Tim?
We have 48 million acres of BLM land here in Nevada. 43 million of those are dedicated to cattle, and we have 500,000 cattle grazing on them. There are only 14 acres that are allowed to be occupied by wild horses, and we only have 43,000 wild horses and 4,000 wild donkeys. So it's not an overpopulation problem. We've also seen game increase. Elk has increased 11-fold since about 10, 15 years ago. So I don't think we have a problem with the horses. I think we have a problem in just managing our state, allowing to happen what happens, and I think we're going to be fine. Horses represent independence and freedom. I think our government's been trying to take that away from us over the last couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, what I think we'll do now, because I don't want to run out of time, this is the most important part of this, if you will, debate. We'll start with you, Lisa, okay? And what I want you to do is give us a minute and a half of why we should vote for you as opposed to your opponents.
I believe you should vote for me, Lisa Krasner, for State Senate District 16 because of my experience. I've been fighting for you and our conservative values for 6 years as your assemblywoman. During the 2021 legislative session, I voted no on ballot harvesting, no on universal mail-in ballots, no on watering down the signature verification for voting, no on governor's unchecked emergency powers, no on men competing in women's sports, no on the big mining tax, no on eroding our Second Amendment rights, no on critical race theory or CRT, no on making Nevada a sanctuary state, no on anti-business legislation, no on vaccine mandates, no on allowing persons to vote rather than citizens. I strongly believe that only citizens should vote in our elections. I've been fighting for you for 6 years. In addition to that, my legal knowledge, doing nothing but studying the law and the Constitution and all those years of law school and teaching courses on the United States Constitution and Nevada Constitution at the college for more than a decade, I can hit the ground running. I can hit the ground running for you. I've already passed laws that help people in their lives. Child victims of sexual abuse, sexual assault, human trafficking. I've passed 2 laws already that help human trafficking victims. Senior citizens, veterans, persons with disabilities, and pro-business legislation. I've done all that in the short 6 years that I've served as your Assemblywoman. I respectfully ask for your vote for Lisa Krasner for State Senate District 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Don?
Thank you. For me, it's about being a lifelong Nevadan. It's about being a business owner, somebody who's had to sign both sides of the check, somebody who's had to fight over regulation, somebody who's had to deal with these complicated issues, been an advocate in the community, a husband and a father who wants the opportunity for their children, who wants to keep Nevada a great place to grow up and stay afterwards, as a leader who can get things done, somebody with a fresh perspective, who understands our community, who grew up here, who will fight for it, who's a conservative, and will stand up for what's right.
Thank you, Don. Tim?
I bring, as I said, 50 years of experience in solving problems, in changing businesses, and creating jobs. I've been in charge of 200 employees. I've been in charge of 10 employees. I know what it takes to get projects done and how to solve problems. This state's problems are not hard to solve. I remember the words of Ronald Reagan, and he said, they say that there are no simple answers. Well, I say they're wrong. There are simple answers. They're not easy answers. We have to do what's morally right in this state to make it a good state. We can't be last in education anymore. We can't be last in healthcare environment anymore. We can't let our small businesses suffer. And we can't be last in labor participation. We're the lowest state in the nation right now in labor force participation. And we need to change that. We need to make Nevada strong, and we need to start doing it at the next legislative session, not 4 more years or 5 more years in the future. We've had people spend time in the legislature. I've been here for 10 years. I've voted for a lot of these individuals, and I've seen nothing get accomplished. If we have 200 bills passed, why don't we have 5 bills passed and get something done? Let's do that now. Thank you.
Monica?
Thank you, Tim. Monica?
The reason that you should vote for me is because the last 2.5 years, I have fought for every single Nevadan, every single person in this room. I got them the medical help that they needed when others weren't providing anything. I still have people coming up to me and telling me, because of the doctors that I hooked them up with, that I saved their lives or their grandparents' lives. Also, I've been at the rallies. I've been at the legislature trying to get them to open up to the citizens of Nevada. I've also helped business owners with OSHA to be able to stay open. I am just an average citizen. I don't need a degree from an unaccredited college to wave in people's faces and say I'm the smartest person in the room. I've achieved great success from hard work and determination and being, well, let's just say, honest. We hear a lot about a leadership and accountability, but how about integrity? And when you say you're not going to do something, you stand by that. Or when you are going to do something, you stand by that as well. I work for the people of Nevada. I'm a representative every single day, not just when the legislature is in session, which a lot of people believe. I will have a 99% conservative rating from NPRI, not 77. I believe committee votes matter, not just floor votes. I will be the voice of those people who feel that they were left behind by our tyrannical governor and the legislature that did nothing when in the NRS statutes they could have pulled his power long ago. I'm Monica J. Monica J for Nevada.com.
I have a rebuttal, please. I have a rebuttal. Thank you. I have a rebuttal. It's really sad that people have to attack me because I have higher education than they do, more experience than they do, and more endorsements than they do. Let's start with Mr. Duvall, who said nothing. I've done nothing. That's ridiculous. I've passed more than 10 laws since I've been in the legislature. Human trafficking victims, disabled veterans, juveniles, land use, and affordable housing, Holocaust and other genocides, senior citizens, and persons with disabilities. I have a rebuttal for Ms. Whittemore Stabbert also. I'm sorry, but I do. Yeah, he said we could have a rebuttal, and they both rebutted. Regarding NPRI, NPRI, if most of you didn't just look at the pictures, which I think she did, you would read and see that they only used 54 bills to make their rating. Of those 54 bills, some were 10 points, 20 points, 30 points. They were
There
all
is a
with
process that
different
needs to
points.
be respected,
No,
and we would
you
ask
can't
that
just
you
look at
respect
the
the
pictures.
process.
You have to read. As a legislator, it's nothing but reading. Over 1,100 bills per session.
Thank you, Lisa.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your time and your commitment to our state and all of your wisdom that you've shared with us today. We appreciate you sitting up here and going through the process and allowing us the democratic way of trying to find our proper elected official to represent our voices for Senate District 16.
And
Thank
we
you all.
appreciate you for having us. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's give a big round of applause to our debate.
They all did a great job. It's not fun to be up there to express your opinions. Anyway, the very last thing we're doing, Bill Conrad, that's running for U.S. Senate, is going to be interviewed by Eddie and Jennifer for about 10 minutes.
Bill Conrad.
Bill Conrad. What did I say? Bill Conrad. So if you hold on. And don't forget, the next meeting is August 8th. It's on a Saturday, a brunch. So it doesn't start until 10. Doors open at 9. With that in mind, you guys ready? And by the way, I'm sorry Sam Brown got tied up in traffic in Las Vegas, missed his flight, could not get up here in time.
I'm not Sam Brown, as you can see, but I have been to Afghanistan.
I didn't know. Okay. Bill, why? Just one initial in the entire alphabet. Why did you run, or are you running for U.S. Senate?
You know, there's a lot of reasons why I ran, but in reality, it's to protect my family. I have 3 kids who are in the military. My daughter just graduated from West Point. I have one who has, in 2 years, will graduate from West Point. My son's a Coast Guard officer. I'm absolutely disgusted with the President of the United States and his leadership, all the way down to every general and every admiral, down to the 1-star level.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question to you is, as a job applicant running for a position that would be requiring you some form of ability to run your job, what does your resume look like, and what on it do you feel is most important for you to be able to effectively do this job?
There's a lot of things. I'm a little older. I just turned 65. I was in Afghanistan when I was 54, still in active duty in uniform. Did 2 more years after that. But I've done a lot of things in my life. When 9/11 hit, I was a vice mayor and a city councilman of a city of 230,000 people. Elected at large, and I actually ran a few times for office. Ran for Congress. I got into a general election and was activated for the war a couple times. So requirements, knowing what a city is like is a great place to start. But I think my core beliefs and simplistic attitude and beliefs in America and what we stand for in our Constitution is where to go. For example, you don't need a big federal government. You need a small federal government who empowers the states and the people. Our government is out of control. In fact, our own party needs to be cleaned up. My first vote will not be for Mitch McConnell. It will be for a conservative leader. I like Rand Paul, but there's others I would look at.
Thank you, Bill. Besides the Army-Navy game, what was your biggest disappointment when it comes to politics this last year?
Oh my gosh. My biggest disappointment in politics?
How about
There's
economy?
Too many, no, I was going to, too many things. I worked for 3 weeks straight during Afghanistan to get people out of the country. The disgust and disaster of Afghanistan is destroying our national, it just put us behind the hole. We're about to have a blockade in Taiwan, and people don't even talk about that. We're losing different wars. We're throwing money here and there. The second thing is inflation, the national debt. We're about to go over the cliff with the national debt. What happens if we go even further and we destroy our dollar and it goes to nothing and it's devalued? There's so many issues that are out there. Of course, the economy. Let's keep on going, though. Let's look at the border. I worked at the border when I was younger and as a National Guardsman before the war. They're coming across in droves. We don't have a secure southern border, and that is insane. From all the drugs coming across, from the people coming across, and the stresses that they're putting on the United States. And the people who we want to get in, they have to wait 5, 10 years. It takes time, but all the people can come in illegally through the border, including terrorists. One of the things I did, it might make a qualification, I worked for the Defense Threat Reduction Agency when I went back on active duty. I studied all of the weak points in the United States. And my last tour was in human terrain. I was a Green Beret when I was young, and I'm still a Green Beret. Once a Green Beret, you're still a Green Beret. Still have the beret, still can wear it when I'm in uniform. I worked refugee control, and I saw people on the border in Afghanistan and different areas. One thing that we want to do and we don't do, let me go back to the border. Sure. We wanted to keep the people in Afghanistan, the Afghans themselves, because you want to keep that talent there. So all these people coming from South America and different places, they're losing their talent. It's bad for their countries too. It's not good for us and it's bad for them. And when they talk about having refugees are supposed to be at the closest, safest place, because when the threat stops, you're supposed to be able to go back to that country of origin. So everyone who's coming here as a refugee should ideally go back to the country of origin when it's safe. But they shouldn't even get here in the first place.
Okay.
Thank you. One question I ask every U.S. Senate candidate is, there will be opportunities of being on a committee when you get there and you're able to be in leadership positions. What committees do you think you would serve best in from your qualifications, and which ones then would in turn be best for Nevada in your opinion?
National security and appropriations.
Short answer, thank you.
There you go. Okay, what I want you to do right now while we just take a little breather, why should I or Jennifer or anyone in this room vote for you as opposed to your opponents?
Well, let me tell you, the top 5 opponents who I know, they're all fine candidates and they've all worked very hard. Sam Brown and Laxell ran great campaigns. They developed it right. I didn't. I started a slow campaign, but for what it's worth in California, I ran shorter campaigns, was outspent, and usually won. I know this is a tough way. You're supposed to have an exploratory committee first, raise your money and do it right. And they did it right. But they're not maybe the best candidates. The other 3 candidates out here, we don't have to report to anyone. For example, Adam Laxell, he's endorsed by Trump, of course, which, by the way, even though I think Trump did really well, he wasn't my first choice when he ran for president initially, but I fully supported him once he won, and he did great. So he's supported by Trump, but he's also supported and endorsed by the majority leader. So how can you serve 2 masters like that? That's one issue. And then Sam, and the other thing is, they should be up here debating. We had 2 live debates, and Sam nor Adam debated. In fact, 4 years ago, Adam turned down a debate that we had here. He would only go if he could be by himself, because we run behind the committees. I see that. You want people who, when they go to the Senate, who can stand up and debate and fight.
Thank you. Very good. Now, what's the biggest problem we're faced with? You're going to go to, Capitol Hill. You're going to be a United States Senator, but you represent the people of Nevada. My question to you is, what's the biggest concern you have for the people of Nevada?
Keeping the union together. Keeping the United States together as a country. We all should do that. And there's a possibility we could lose this country. It's getting close. If we lose the dollar and we go into chaos and we can't support the military, if China takes over Taiwan, we'll be cut off, we'll lose the Pacific. And the other thing for our state, and this is separate from that because that's disaster I'm talking about, but what happened during this, now I've got to watch what I say here. I don't want to say the P word, but I can say we were locked down. So and you saw China and how they locked down everybody. And they're still locking down people. All rights left. I said, that could never happen here. That could never happen. I fought 38 months in Afghanistan for freedom and liberty. We can never lose freedom. We lost our freedoms here. Some states more than others, California. We should never, ever be locked down again, period. No one should be forcing us. There are people, let me say, they are forcing injections, and I can say that, into people that they don't want of a foreign substance. In the military, there are 26,000 requests for religious accommodations. Virtually none, maybe 100, have been approved. They're trying to eliminate in our military God, or at least the pro-life soldiers, sailors, and Marines, airmen, and coasties out of the military. You guys got to be concerned about that. This is a disaster. This is socialism. This is dictatorship. And this is not my country the way it is now. But I believe in my country. I believe in the people. I believe at the next election we'll get it back, and in 2 years we'll get it all back. And we'll stabilize the country if we don't go broke first.
Thank you. I have a quick, hopefully, one-word answer coming from you on this next one. The pipeline has been shut down. Will you support reopening it for our
Absolutely. I'm going to say more than one. Energy independence is critical. That's one of the 6 things that they've messed up, losing energy independence. But do you realize that our reserves, which we use to fight wars with, are back in the 50s right now? That's dangerous. We should never have let those reserves go. We should have become energy independent, drill more, and do it now. The other thing to look at down the road is nuclear. Nuclear, if they want to go to the electric side.
Thank you. We have 1 minute. Is there anything we haven't asked you that you would like to make sure you get your message across to those that are watching today?
I would, and I want to thank everyone who's here tonight, those in the audience watching, Ray, yourselves, for doing what you're doing. For about 5 years ago, I started using these, and they worked out pretty well in networking, and we tried to bring videos and social media to the Republican side to help people get elected. I'm helping about 5 or 6 people on digital targeting. And we're losing that now on the freedom side. But I just want to thank everyone here who made this possible, the people listening. And we want to go out as Republicans and win, bring back our country, and raise our kids in a free and great country. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, one
Bill
last thing.
Conrad, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm a little out. I haven't done a lot of debates, a lot of work, but when I used to be a councilman, we used to go out and talk. The more you talk, the better you get towards a campaign. At the end of the campaign, you're usually your best. So, maybe next time. Exploratory committee starts on the 14th.
Thank you, Bill Conrad.
Bill did a great job. He has a lot of good comments. Look for him in the future, as well as this cycle. Want to thank Aaron, Eddie, Jennifer for being moderators and interviewing and timers. With that in mind, we'll see you in August at a breakfast brunch. Thank you for coming.